as they took it apart, they also marked it. It had X's and slash marks on it, so when they put it back together, it all fit together. It was actually quite fun to do. And also, on top of that, the wood that came in through Indianola was dropped off by ship and floated in because Indianola was a shallow port, and it couldn't take a deep ship coming in. So they would actually dump the lumber in, and it would float into shore at the right tide. And so it had that, you know, the saltiness of it, I think, actually had some effect on the wood because it seems to be redder. And they also brought it in from as far away as Georgia, because longleaf pine grew from Texas all the way to Georgia. It was said that at one time a squirrel could get in a tree in Georgia, in a longleaf pine tree, and never get down until he got to Texas. That's how much we cut down.
Also, too, I heard, say, 100 years ago, in Houston had a whole bunch, now they're planting a whole bunch of bald cypresses, but say 100 years ago, this is full of bald cypresses, and they cut them down, and you know, when you go to the East Coast, you see a lot of, I guess, I don't know, cypress floors, whatever. Actually came from Houston, is that right?
Oh, yes. As I say, when we exported in just 1917 alone 1.7 billion, 1.2 billion board feet, that went to Venezuela, went to South America, went all over the country, went up the railroads up into the middle of the country. We had the big booms going on during those periods. That was our biggest commodity. That's why I say the thing that actually got Texas going and developed before oil was lumber. We'd run out of lumber by the time oil was going really good. We were on the downstroke. 1917 was our peak for the lumber industry. And names that you know of, everybody knows the Camerons, and there's names that are around Texas that are lumber industry names. They own thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. They basically controlled, you know, people's lives to the point that you were almost slaves to the lumber companies. In fact, when they mixed the blacks with the whites, there was all sorts of issues of race because they were trying to bring in. And they would literally, there was literally all the issues of the people at the bottom, the poor people who weren't getting educated by the lumber companies. Their schools weren't trying to make them smart to want to leave. They wanted more employees. So they were basically grinding their own little world using people.
Oh, we did it up north with the mills.
Oh, and the mines, the railroads, exactly.
So,
it was the same thing.
It was how you could survive. You know?
Exactly. It was an
Because
exploitation
they
of
didn't
the
have enough money
resources.
to pay them. They had to come up and give them a product. But anyway.
And now that we're getting smart, they're feeding us chemicals to dumb us down.
That's it. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
How much do one of these cost?
The prices on these will range anywhere from about $38,000 and go up. And that's the wiring, the insulation, the plumbing, effectively everything in there except you get your own appliances and lighting. We install it for you. We're
Lighting,
doing,
meaning fixtures?
yeah, like your light fixtures, your fan. I don't want to be responsible for your refrigerator. I don't want to be responsible for anything that's built-in obsolescence. So that you're calling me up going, hey, it only lasted a year. What happened? Well, it's designed to break in a year. I'm sorry.
There's a new thing now, it's called LEED certification, leadership in energy and environmental design. Can your places, they go to get that too?
Well, oddly enough, they don't put much weight in salvage material or the fact that you're building 100% green. LEED certification, as you understand, most certifications are based on the members who make it happen. And if you're a big corporation and you're one of the members making those certifications, you make sure that what you produce can be certified. And so I say that the word green building has been bastardized by the big corporations. I mean that I can get a whole bunch of things into that crack that's called green now, whether it's Norboard, particles of wood that are glued together, ½ inch thick, stuck up like this and down, and have a little tuba-two at the bottom that's new wood that doesn't have any strength, hardly anything at all. At the top and the bottom, we're calling that a floor joist. It has no lateral strength. If it should happen to burn, firemen don't want to even be in new houses. They don't go in them. Unless there's a human being in there, they pour water on them because they collapse. As soon as that tuba-two burns and it loses its strength at the bottom, there's no lateral strength in it. The house just folds. Okay? It's not going to happen in our house. Our house will burn hard and burn hot. It won't fold for a long time. But once it gets burning, it will burn hot. But the point is, though, is that you really, when you're talking about the differences in the quality of the materials, like you see a mobile home and how fast you've seen movies, most people see movies, how fast a mobile home will burn because it's all highly flammable materials. You know,
Chemicals.
Yeah, and chemicals and stuff like that. Even living in one, and for the first 6 months, it's that new house smell. Well, that new house smell is deadly. New car
Formaldehyde,
smell.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Allergic
you know,
to-
plasticizers, all these other things that get into your system. That's what we're trying to avoid. And again, the craziest part about it is, the simplest, craziest part about it is that it's at our fingertips. It's right there available to us.
Are you a nonprofit?
We're trying to get status. It's filling out the paperwork and get it through
Yes,
IRS.
I know we just finished filling out our nonprofit for a different kind of thing, but we know what it takes to do
and
that.
getting the time to do that, and also try to do our web and try to do all the other wonderful things that we're trying to do. And it seems like that's one of the things we're trying to get to also, because as a nonprofit, the whole goal is to
You're probably
create
better
some
off to
sort.
pay somebody to do it. I'll tell you what, I wish I didn't have a husband for 6 months, but that's, I mean, it was very time consuming.
Well, and that's what I'm afraid. In fact, I was actually quite discouraged when I got the list of all the things that they sent me back after I made my initial application. And okay, now you're going to have to, what are what are you going to teach off of? Let me see the booklets. Let's see samples of all. I was like, I haven't even got open yet.
Are you kidding?
Oh no, I'm not kidding. And I was like, oh man, I can't do it. But anyway, I talked to the IRS girl, because I said, man, I explained what I was trying to do and stuff, and then she sent me this thing. And so right at the last day when it was supposed to expire, when it was like I hadn't done it, it was like, oh, it's just too intimidating. I can't do it. She calls me up at 5 o'clock and said, do you need an extension? She called me and it's like, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, frankly, I don't think I'll be able to do it. I said, I think it's just too intimidating. I said, well, I've been looking. She said, oh, don't worry about it. If you don't have that stuff, just put on there, don't have it yet. Don't have this, don't have that. And just try to go at it and see what you can do. And then and she was like, 2 weeks as this date comes along. If you haven't got it yet, call me and I'll give you another extension.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I
Right.
talked to her about what I'm doing, and she seemed to be sympathetic to the whole concept of, we want to teach people that they too can do this, that it's not something that you have to pay $38,000 for, because most of that is the labor and me having the operations and doing all the research and getting it to happen.
Right, but you
But
don't
once
have to
it's
have it
done-
all. You can write, plan this to this date or whatever like
Right.
that.
Oh, the budgets and all
We got
that.
sent in and back, like,
Oh, really?
no redos.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, is I didn't, the first time around I had a girl working for me who's supposed to be doing a good job, and it was like, oh, I don't know what has happened to her, but it didn't happen that way. What got sent back to me was one of those deals like, oh my God. And that's after I talked to the woman, but the thing is I honestly believe that if you say, here's what I want to do, then they want evidence that you're able to do it. It's like, well, that assumes, and it's like, how much are you going to pay these people? What salary is the director going to be on? What salary is like, I don't have any money yet. There's no salaries. It's like, there's going to be volunteers,
To be
yeah,
announced.
so all that. But I mean, when it started off, and then also the resumes for all the directors on the board, and it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, it's intimidating. But I think, that's unfortunately the system, the way you have to play the game. Now, I'm not sure exactly what nonprofit status would give me other than another accounting nightmare. But, I want to try to at least make it
because
possible.
people actually are more willing to give to you if they get something from it. And seeing you can't give them money, you can give them tax write-off, they'll be happy.
And that's what the principle behind it is if they donate to the nonprofit, the house, they get that credit, and we in turn pass that down to somebody who turns it into jobs for their family and housing. And that's the whole idea behind that, is to do that. Yes?
Well, if you get a chance, you ought to go down here to, the Narita Highway in Zazamora, the SAS Shoe Factory. They have their own place. I think it actually burned down 7 years ago. They've redone it. But they have the different buildings. But then just recently, they just finished up as part of the store. They got a barn from Victoria, Canada. They're probably over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they reassembled it and have it there. And, so
Cool.
It's over 100 years old. It's part of it, just like it was.
Yeah, the barn deconstruction and reconstruction is fascinating, because there's so many giant barns out there. They're still in pretty darn good shape, but it's expensive to take them down and put them back up. But I think that's a great idea, a great thing. Actually, yeah, I need to go look at that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
In terms of foundations and stuff, what are some of the different options? Because I see, a lot of them are probably the set on, beams of some sort, and then you have the latticework